Elections Observer Group, which is ILOG, in their report. Earlier, I mentioned what has been stated in the IEBC Gazette notice on the discrepancy in terms of gender, male and female, and we only have 9% of the aspirants as female, which is an issue of concern. We will be coming back to that. But on other matters that are inside the statement on critical incidents, we have voters who were turned away in Mbeere North, and in their report, they indicate that an elderly voter was reportedly turned away from voting due to discrepancies with the register between her place of residence, which is Ivurore Ward, and her voter registration details are in Muminji Ward, which means she went to a polling station and had to be turned away because her details did not match the location where she reported to. I think this we will also be highlighting on issue of sensitization of voters and understanding how the voting process goes then. Because if then this is not on IEBC's side, it means it's on the voters' side. And there's another issue here that has been raised, which is the breach of secret ballot. At Karangare Police Station, still in Mbeere North constituency, voters were observed publicly declaring their preferred candidates, with party agents allegedly encouraging this conduct. And so the ILOG says this practice constitutes a direct violation of the constitutional principle of the secret ballot, ile kura yako siri yako. And the other issues that have been raised in this report, of course, signed by the chairperson of the Elections Observation Group, ILOG, Victor Nyongesa. But even as we continue with this discussion today, we've spoken a lot about goons, an issue, and tokenism, an issue that we cannot belabor more on. But allow me to move on to, understanding elections in the first place. Yes, we have low registration among Gen Z in the continuous registration process. Probably you'll say the Kenyans are last-minute people. But Sophie, I'm curious, what would lead to someone getting to wrong polling stations? Is these voters not understanding where they ought to go, or does this raise concerns about IEBC's procedure? Because I believe outside a polling station you should have a list of everyone that is supposed to be voting in there. Starting with you, Wakili.
Thank you. I think I'm going to start. It is true that it is actually a requirement that in every station you must definitely have the names. But the most important thing that we need to do is to sensitize the people to understand the voting process. So this voting process begins way early in voter registration for people who have not voted, especially the young people and the Gen Zs. Some who didn't vote in 2022 because they didn't have IDs, some out of choice, but we intend to change that. So number one is to understand the voting process. Understand the location where you're supposed to vote, because the location has ideally the polling station, because out of the polling station it is a specific place where you're expected to vote. That is where your ballot papers are, the ones that you're going to use to vote. So that is extremely important for us to sensitize the people about. And how can we do it? Especially the elderly people need a lot of help. And we are the ones who can be able to offer that kind of help to them. Because some of them are not able to read. This speaks to issues of illiteracy. Some cannot be able to read to actually know which station they should be in. So it speaks to the fact that we need to use all the available places that we have. For example, let us take these issues of sensitization to the churches, where we can get them. Let us take them door to door, where we can get these people, tell them, show us your voter's card, so that at least you can be able to tell them that on the voting day, you're going to go to place A, that is where you are supposed to go and vote. And again, you are expected to behave in a certain way, not to disclose the candidates you are voting, and to adhere to all these rules that have been set out by the IEBC. So I think, again, it is about sensitization. How we sensitize voters is really going to be extremely important when we are heading to 2027.
All right. Sophie?
I think IEBC is supposed to conduct voter education. It is not the citizens' mandate to educate their fellow citizens. But IEBC has been given a budget that they are, for instance, as we were approaching this by-election, We did not see any adverts on TV by the IEBC educating the voter on what they're supposed to do. We did not see them going around the places to actually educate the people on what exactly they're supposed to do. We are not seeing inclusion and social equity being part of the IEBC electoral process, because, for example, a person with disability, how have they been included? Like, is there a ramp in the polling stations for someone who's using a wheelchair? What about a blind person? What are they supposed to do? Like, it entirely falls on IEBC. But there is active citizens who are doing their mandate to educate the public. So instead of IEBC gatekeeping the process because they are saying that they have not been funded, which is sort of deliberate, then why can't they engage and earmark active citizens, then work together to sort of conduct the voter education, because they're saying they're understaffed, they're underfunded, but there are civil society organizations who have the funding and they have the willingness to actually participate in the process. What is then stopping them from thinking out of the box, trying to engage the citizens in a way that the public can be educated? And Kagina, it is important to note that elections is not only about the election day. Election is what happens before election day, on election day, and after election day. So IEBC can actually be faulted even for contributing to the rigging of these by-elections by not educating the voter. That can be considered as a part of rigging, because you're deliberately alienating us from information that is supposed to be dispensed to us by taxpayers' money.
All right.
Am I making sense?
We get you clearly, Sophie. And allow me shortly to be crossing over upande wa Fatma, and we hear what the other members of this conversation have to say about this. But just to note that there has been a slight improvement from the number that we had of stations that have successfully reported their form series A, which is the entire results of those polling stations, which is 9 now out of the 2,345, and we expect this number to be rising. Fatma, upande wa kwako wanasemaje kuhusu mada ya siku ya leo?
Asante sana Kagina, thank you very much. Also thank you to Simwa from Malava. It's good to see that some calm has been restored in Malava. There was a lot of things going on in Malava. At some point, one of the contenders, Seth Panyako, was seen crying. At some point, he complained that he went to the police station and nothing was being done. Akasema alivamiwa. Hata party leader wake Eugene Wamalwa pia came out and said PIA amevamiwa. So there's been a lot going on in Malava. So to see that picture there, that there is calm in terms of tallying the votes, that's a big up. So, hapa niko na my people kama kawaida, and we are discussing today the by-elections 2027, and the comrades president of Safina Party, your name is Fidel, am I right? Fidel, I want us to go to this educating the public in terms of voting, because during the break you did mention something about civic education. You said there is no point in voting if you don't really know what you're doing. Talk to us more about that.
As I start talking about that point, I start by saying there's this conversation we had here about eliminating the older generation. This is politics. You eliminate them, you also eliminate yourself. The same way, politics is just like a house structure. You must have someone to guide you through. In a family setup, let's say in an extended family, and there's usually, let me use this norm, let me leave alone the family setup. You are usually told that in every market there must be a madman. So in this political scene, those politicians who are not working, those are just madmen. So you have a decision either to follow the madman, keep talking about the madman, or decide to be part of the change you want. So I was talking about civic education. You know, majority of us here on the streets, we were with Sophie, majority of the viewers who are watching us here, and the youth who are here. My question is, you went to the street. Why were you there? You need to answer this question and know why you were at the street. After that, you must realize that in politics, you must belong to a political party to vie And this one I'm telling the youths here. Come 2027, those people you are seeing, like let's say right now in parliament, we have less than 20 MPs who are independent. And they have special cases. I'll take you to someone like Shakir Shabil. He has tried getting the ODM ticket, but what has saved him time and time again? Work ethic. And whatever he had done to secure the first entry. It is not going to be a walk in the park. Politics is a very tedious game. That's why you see Panyako crying. He's not just crying. He knows what he'll benefit from when he becomes a politician or a leader to represent the people of Malava. Let us first join these political parties, which are based on the ideologies that took you to the street, because that is when we realized political awakening, just by tuning of the finance bill. So when we realize this is when we now try and look at the leaders. Fatma wants to buy in Mombasa. What is Fatma offering? You need to know if Fatma is vying as a governor, you need to know what the governor should offer, so that you do not tell Fatma to build your house, yet that is not the work of Fatma. If an MP's work is to legislate, your work is to tell the MP, we want A, B, C, D. How can we work around the structures in parliament and how policies are made to ensure that we have this? So that Fatma advises you, she works on a bill, and she does that. That is how we'll manage this space. And another thing I want to say, just going back to the point I said at first, we want to go to the political spaces. And we, as the youth, there's something the youth are saying. Hatuna pesa, sisi, we don't have money. These older people have money. So if you do not have money and you know very well you cannot comb a constituency, which is very big. Majority of these constituencies are too enormous. Look at Lamu. Lamu has 2 constituencies which make it a county, I believe. Look at how those big, let's say like Nairobi here. Look at how Kasarani is big. Embakasi East is big. Let no one lie to you that you will be an independent candidate and you will go and vie and win. Join these political parties. They are given funds to support people. And I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but of the party I'm supporting, but look at these other parties, exclude mine, because I know majority will say that I'm pushing Safina agenda. Look at them. They are candidates that they have sponsored. I'll go to ODM as an example. Look at Boyd. The governor of Homa Bay has given him money to sponsor his campaign, branding and everything. Had it not been the governor, he would have been nowhere. He has nothing. Even paying 1 million fine, ilimshinda.
All right.
So we also need guidance. Let us not just throw guidance that people are giving us. You behave like a sieve. Take what is good and leave what is bad. And as I finish, our fellow good friends usually say that autological species of the same plumage locomote in unison. Look at your friends. Look at the people who have the same ideas that you have, and then now come up with them to form a solid base that you will vote in the right person you want to vote. Failing to vote is voting the wrong regime. If you vote, your vote counts and it becomes your voice for the next 5 years. So you have a decision to make. It's either you throw it or you make use of it.
All right, thank you very much. I'd like to cross over to Ezra, if that's okay with you. He spoke about civic education and explained it very clearly. Unfortunately, hajatuambia tunatoa wapi hii civic education. Watu waende wapi kufundishwa kuhusu voting?
Okay. There's greater things that we ought to, acknowledge in regards to, the effectiveness or the importance of civic education comes in this matter. First and foremost, as I said earlier, we ought to acknowledge that it is no measure of good health to be well acclimatized to a sick society, right? We have clearly cited the buy-in of people into this very, should I say, actions that propagate the very harms we are trying to out in society, right? Think of voter bribing, think of goonism and all these things. One thing we have to acknowledge is that the only way they are actually propagated is by exploitation of the desperate situations of the voters, right? So question then becomes, how exactly, considering that there is greater incentive to opt into these things, matters because it's circumstantial. Like you cannot change your current circumstance as at that point in time, and your easiest option becomes buying in, or rather opting into this very, very, let me call them unjust means of, conducting this electoral process, right? So that acknowledged, question then becomes, how exactly are we creating disincentives for the politicians, the political parties, and even the voters to opt in into these very, very things? And the only way we are able to do this is let's talk of two things. One, civic education, and two, like having stronger enforcement frameworks. And we have bodies and authorities that are supposed to ensure that these very things do not really get propagated in society. Now, problem then becomes the fact that these things, as I said earlier, are more performative than functional, because they are there symbolically, but do not really work towards achieving the set objectives. So people need to know of this, first and foremost. Second of all, where do we go? We have, as has been cited, the IEBC is mandated to actually offer this very, very civic education. So they have to be, they themselves have to take initiative and set up civic education forums, and people can get into this. And the only way we are able to do this is by let the people know from a community basis. The chief knows that this is the area I'm supposed to administer. IEBC is having elections, this for example, polling station. So let me rally my people, tell them that the election will be, the civic education forum will be happening here, and IEBC will be conducting it. Or even, we also have civic education programs by citizens themselves. That's the truth, because people are becoming increasingly aware of the problems we face, and to some extent it is actually credited to our circumstances and our lack of information on how exactly we out ourselves from this. So point is, let the bodies that are mandated to give us the education on these matters take initiative. Second of all, the bodies that are supposed to enforce these very, very frameworks that ensure that voting in itself is done in a very, very, should I say, a rightful manner, and a manner that can actually serve the interest of the people and increase the confidence they have in the system. Hence, we'll be able to work towards progressing in society. Point is, we have to create disincentives for these politicians to opt into these very things, and also in acknowledgement of the current desperate situations that people face, which are being used as a measure of, like, exploitation by the politicians in regards to, buying votes or getting goons and whatever other method of, like, interference with the voting process, right? So the moment people know of their situation and the best way and the best means of opting out of it. Second of all, the whole point of, it's 500 shillings for 5 hours of, say, pleasure, while you're sacrificing the next 5 years of your life, which doesn't principally make any sense. So the more aware we are of our situation, right, and how exactly we best are able to solve them, is the only means by which we, like, gain greater incentive and create greater disincentive to opt into the very, very sick systems that we are buying into as at now.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Ezra. I'd like pass it over to Evans. Evans, I'm giving you the mic by virtue of being a lawyer, and I think civic education is a topic that a lawyer can handle very well. Aside from what Ezra has told us, where else do you think the youth out there can go to achieve and know more about civic education, their rights to vote, why they are voting, who they are voting for, all this knowledge?
Thank you very much. 3 things. Number 1, this country, again, we say is not short of laws. There are too many laws. There are too many institutions that then help us to conduct civic education. If you look at the Constitution, we look at Article 59, there's a creation of the Kenya National Commission for Human Rights. And this commission is vested with the power of also ensuring that the people are informed of their particular rights. And those rights include political rights. Political rights are entrenched in Article 38 of the Constitution. So that is one body that really plays a very critical role in ensuring people have the information, the requisite information, in as far as civic education is concerned. The second body that we can talk about is the Kenya Human Rights Commission, because these are 2 different commissions. So the Kenya Human Rights Commission is actually a non-governmental organization. So the Kenya Human Rights Commission equally, and other stakeholders in that particular space, talk of Transparency International, talk of all these particular organizations, can also help disseminate the information that is requisite. But most important, number 3, is the IEBC. You see, we have talked about IEBC constantly, and part of the litmus test, as our topic today clearly depicts, is actually voter education. And when you look at the Election Act as it is written, the Election Act 2016 as it is inscribed, it clearly depicts that IEBC equally has a role to ensure that the voters are educated, the voters know of what to look into when they are looking out for leaders, and equally the law then helps us to clearly decipher we can clearly say that this is the wheat, this is the chaff. These are the people who are supposed to vote for. When you look at even the constitution itself, the Leadership and Integrity bit, that is chapter 6, and also the Leadership and Integrity Act. All these are provisions that are there in the constitution and the laws. And equally, the bodies that are supposed to implement are then envisioned, and they are given the power and the mandate to actually conduct civic education. But allow me to comment quickly also on the political parties. Political parties also have a critical role to play. You see, these are actors in this particular game. These are stakeholders, I'll say, in this particular game. If we talk about elections, we can't talk about elections, rather, when you don't talk about political parties. And as rightfully been, as it has rightfully been pointed out by my colleague, political parties such as Safina, it's a very good party, such as the Economic Pillars Alliance that I belong to. These are very good parties that then can use this opportunity as they advance their agendas to also educate the voters. We have talked about people not knowing the exact location they're supposed to vote, people not knowing what to look out for leaders. These political parties equally have a critical role to play when it comes to voter education. So all these institutions come together and they help us to disseminate the information. And I hope really even as we move into the future, they're going to take this education seriously and more focus more on ensuring that people have the informed they have the informed mindset even as they make the decisions in 2027. As I conclude, I love to say that Kenya is at crossroads. At this point in time, Kenya is at crossroads of having an educated voter and or having a voter that is chanting one time and two term. This is the point in time where we need to step up as the youths. The youths need to come out and use the social media to ensure that people are also educated. Even as we put these institutions to task, we need to also move into the villages. We need to move into each and every ward. We need to move into each and every constituency. Say, for example, Kikuyu constituency, we have also shown interest that when I'm going to my constituents, I'm also telling them, hey, look, even if I'm vying for this particular position, I need you to put me on the scale. And where the pendulum will actually fall is where you'll actually make your decision. If you feel that I have not passed the requisite criteria, if you feel that I'm not competent enough, then don't vote for me. If you feel that I'm competent enough, then vote for me. So we also need to take this particular role of educating the voters in our various constituencies.
Okay, thank you very much, Evans. I'd like to pass it over to the end to Karen, being an ELOG observer herself. And we are talking about IEBC. Alafu pia sahi votes zinaisabiwa, tallying is ongoing in the centers. Karen, maybe you can talk to the public and tell them how much confidence should they have in the IEBC with the tallying of votes. 1, 2, being a Gen Z, you're obviously technological savvy. You know technology, a lot of it. The way we are counting our elections is the way we counted in 2022, is the way we counted in 2017, is the way we've been counting all along. You know, papers zinaisabiwa, nini nini. There is no much transparency there. How then can we use technology to better this kind of process?
Thank you very much. And I think on the first question that you asked, what is the confidence level of the Gen Zs to the IEBC? I think that is something that I'm going to address based on the reports that as ELOG we have done or put out as statements. One of the biggest issues with trust is apathy levels, where young people, we are constantly having young people feel like they cannot be able to reach to those who are in leadership, and if they are able to reach them, they do feel like their votes do not matter, which is a clear indication on even the turnout of voters in the continuous voter registration that the IBC has been doing ahead of the 2027 election. So for me, I would say that trust is a direct correlation to the apathy that we do have with the young people. And then on the second question, nasikia kucheka kwanza hii kwa sababu saizi tumetoka kuongea that there's an elderly person who was turned away because they had confused the word. Yes. So if we have an issue with technology at the simplest of level, as someone who is out of the system and is observing elections, to be critical a bit, I would say that even if we did upgrade, how will that look like when it comes to inclusion? So if we are having issues with malfunctioning, which is something that was reported in the statement of some of the KIMS kit in the polling stations, I would beg to deduce, that we first focus on fixing what we have before we think of upgrading, so that with what we have, we can create inclusivity, so that even the elderly people or the vulnerable are not left out, but rather the technology that we have embraces them. So that is what I have to say about that.
All right, thank you very much. Could you pass it over to Timothy? Timothy, I'm left with you and Monacity and Iteo, but unfortunately we don't have much time. So in just two minutes each, you could tell us some of the technological things that can be done to enhance our electoral process, to enhance transparency. You're the future of our technology. And any last remark?
Okay, yeah. So first and foremost, I would like to advise IBC. There's this culture that we had during the last year's finance bill protest, where also the celebrities could also use their social media platforms to encourage people to come out for protests and break down the laws that will have affect us. So I think that the same culture, we should also bring it on board, because we have realized IBC, they're not conducting civic education, also encouraging people to register as voters. For instance, in my county, Lamu County, Lamu County, in terms of population, the numbers are low, but then in terms of landmass, it's bigger even if you combine Nairobi, Kiambu, Murang'a, it's bigger. But then how many registration centers do we have? One per constituency. So people have to travel over 50 kilometers just to go and register as a voter. So such as just the minimal things that they don't need a lot of work. They have the budget to do all these things, but they are not prioritizing on that. But because now they are not prioritizing on that, what are we going to do also on our end? Because I see this one is a clear scheme to make people not to register as voters. So I encourage us also to use our platforms also in a simplest way, encourage people to register as voters. Even they encourage our celebrities also, because they have like big social media handles and big influence. So when they encourage people to register as voters, we'll be scoring. And then in terms of elections, one thing that I think I could recommend maybe the ABC, in terms of presidential election, in order to reduce rigging, all the presidential elections should be announced at the constituency level. When they do that, we'll avoid rigging, because most of the times rigging happens at bombers. People vote, and then those who win constituency levels are not the ones who are declared winners, but constituency level are the bombers of Kenya Tallying Center. So that's one thing. And then also in terms of IBC sensitizing people to register as voter, and also how to vote and the place they should go and vote. I think they should have simplest ways, like they should delegate in a form where they are in different languages. Okay. Like for example, in Kikuyu, they can have people who can talk to people, tell them this is how and how you should go, register as voters. This is the place that you're supposed to go. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So Iteo, in just about 2 minutes or so, can you tell us how we can incorporate artificial intelligence, AI, into bettering our electoral process?
I think the data being public, the number of registered voters, just as Sophie said, having like cleaned up registration, registration books. I think then you're able to have parallel polling stations. They tally, you tally, and I think that makes it a lot better. But I think we can't get there for until this whole mindset along corruption is solved. When you give, unapatia mtu wako wa boda chai ndio sijui asikupitishe mahali, you are part of the problem. It plays into the grand scheme of things. You're just as bad as whoever is embezzling, the billions. So I think my clarion call would just be that we might, go to these great lengths, but for as long as we're not able to, start clipping, that corruption thing at the bud, then it will not be as efficient.
All right, thank you very much, Monacity. As the final person, in just about 2 minutes or so, you can give us your final remark, please.
Yeah, first of all, I'll just say that IBC should coordinate with the young people who know a lot about the technology and the expert of the organization. Secondly, I think so the IBC should be doing a regular audit and testing of all the biometric things each day until the day of election for us to have an accurate elections and results for it. Another thing, they should be training their staffs very well, as like we only have the staffs of IBC have position to be trained during election only. So we should have those classes of them and teaching the community of it, because they are being paid and they're not doing anything. So we should allow the IBC to go. We have this new text of the robust. The primary kids are being taught about the AI in the schools. So I think so our old generation, the boomers and some millennium and the X, they don't know something. So they should employ some youths in this IBC thing for us to be improved. That's all I can say.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I'd like to cross over back to Kagina. But you at home, let us know. Send us your comments. Tell us how technology and artificial intelligence can be used to better the process of elections in Kenya, to kuondoa rigging, to remove all aspects of kuiba. Now, all these things that we've been doing, manake sahi tuna vote ni kama 10, 20 years ago. We need to move on. AI is here to help us, right? Over to you, Kagina.
Well, indeed. Looking at social media platforms of the former deputy president, that is DCP party leader, Rigathi Gachagua, he's claiming that we have goons that have already infiltrated some police stations, some polling stations and tallying stations, including Narok Township and Gitiburi Primary in Mbeere North. I believe details of which we'll be getting soon, hopefully by the end of this bulletin. But going on, Fatma has introduced a very interesting topic on the use of advancement in technology in enhancing our election. Do we have space for that, or do we first familiarize with what we have? Starting with Sophie.
Well, you see, you can incorporate technology, but the state has. For instance, we introduced blockchain, where an individual voter has an individual identification, and that really reduces the chances of rigging. But what happens if they shut down the internet? How are we going to be able to vote? Like, technology comes with its own detriments, considering the state still has monopoly. So look, even in 2022, the KIMS kit, zilizima tu, then we still had to revert back to the manual system. So at this point, let's first fix what we have. Like Karen has said, let's first clean up and ensure what we have first of all is functional before we can think about upgrading. Because even those who are in charge of the process, surely, will we be able to train them on AI with such little time?
Right. Yes, Wakili.
You see, the problem we have in our country is a problem of self-sabotage. Whenever you're put somewhere, you want to simply sabotage everything. You don't want to see any systems working. You don't want to see things going in the way they should. And that is the biggest issue we have as a country. So myself, I remain optimistic and open that AI should be incorporated into these voting registration systems. AI should be incorporated in our election formulas and how we do it, because the work of AI is to literally make our work easy, because that is what AI does. It simply makes our work easy. And we can use even AI in voter education, because AI has been very helpful. Like, for example, let me reference something. In 2024, when we had the protests, people came up with the AIs that could be able to decode a whole bill, and you just ask a question, it points the specific thing maybe your member of parliament has done. And those are the many things that we can do with AI that are productive. So we should include AI, because it is super helpful. That is where the world is heading. As a country, as Kenya, let us not remain behind. We are not immune to change also. It's a country that needs to grow, and AI is the future, and that's where we are.
All right, allow me to invite you for your closing remarks, even as we wrap up this conversation this evening. Just starting with you, Wakili, right there.
So my message is simply to young people. My dear and fellow young people, this is our time to change our country. We do not expect anyone else to come and help us change our country. Let us not look for solutions from outside. Let us look at what ourselves we can do. For many, many years, our parents have waited for solutions from outside. But now let us think differently. What is it that we can do? Ni nini mimi naweza fanya na nini wewe unaweza fanya to make our country better? So number one, I'm calling you to register as a voter kama uja register. Manze, tell your friend, tell your colleagues, tell your family to register as voters. Siri ni numbers. The thing that we need to knock off this regime that is dictatorial and that is not considerate of us young people is numbers. And the only way we can do that is making sure that all of us are registered as voters. Two, let us not condone these bad practices. We need to call off these things. Let us shun them. For example, if it is things like bribery, let us not entertain these people. And let me remind you, because some of you have forgotten, in 2024 we were on the streets. We were demanding good governance. We got to teach accountability. And you remember that the system had shaken. Even the president had called off these harambes that they were doing. And that is literally the strength that we have to make our country better. So I believe we can make our Kenya great again. We can make our country shine. Like our forefathers did, we can also be able to have a good country. But it is upon me and you to make it happen. So I'm inviting you that this is your time to make it happen. And you're the person who is going to make it happen. So let us meet in 2027 when we finally take over the government as young people.
Yes, Sophie Nje here.
Well, of course, it's to call out young people to register as voters, and not only register, but to show up on the actual day and to vote. To also join political parties, because through political parties, you are able to influence who actually shows up on the ballot. And power follows structures, power follows organizations. So the only way we can reclaim power is by actually being in an organized formation. We need to have a consistent messaging that includes remember what this regime has done. It has killed young people, it has overborrowed, it has stolen public funds that are meant to do public work for us. It is for us to remember that every single day we are faced with issues that are affecting us. So we need to put our focus not on slogans, okay, one term is inevitable, but on issues that now push us towards that one-term conversation. And lastly, is to call out on all citizens of goodwill to actually help young people to come out, kutoka kwa block, like offer young people jobs, give them a chance to make a living so that tokenism is not appealing to them, but to also come up with creative ways to help us, especially on election day. So we will need contributions towards transport to take people to the voting, to the polling stations. We need money to hire agents to gather votes. We just need all of us to come together, collective responsibility. And lastly is to call out every single Kenyan to put a special focus on the issue of public debt. Read, be informed so that we are able to fight from a point of knowledge. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Those right there have been our guests on this side of the panel this evening. Mine is just an observation. Angry, sad, disappointed that in this time and era and the development in our democracy, we'd have people resorting to violence as a result of lacking political tolerance. We can do better as a country, and indeed, we can do way, way better. Now, my name is David Kagina. Thank you so much for joining me. Allow me to pass you to Fatma Chidagai.
All right, thank you very much, Kagina, my mbogis, Kagina's guests, and you at home. It's been such a pleasure. Tumekuwa pamoja kuanzia saa 12 asubuhi. Tunafuatilia sako kwa bako, the by-elections today, 27th of November 2025, and we're not stopping here. Brian Amwai is coming up next, and Brian Amwai will take us now through the tallying of the votes from each constituencies, from each wards, and from that one county, that is Baringo County. Thank you so much for being with us. I have been your host, Fatma Chidagaya. Do have yourself a good evening.
TV Muthegi wa Rũrĩrĩ.
Rĩrĩa tũranjia rũgendo rwa gũcaria mũgũnda ona nyũmba ya gũikara kana kũigithia, kaingĩ nĩ tũrigagwo thabarĩ ĩno ĩhana atĩa na nũ ũrabatara nĩguo akũnyite guoko kũhingia kĩroto gĩaku. Tabarĩra ĩno ĩrakũiyĩra thiri ciothe cia wĩigithia na makĩria gũkũmenyithania na ataaramu othe a waki. Na we ũrenda kwandandũra ũigithia waku, haha noho thoko yaku. Twakinya nĩ gũtũma mũciĩ waku ũtuĩke kĩrorerwa. Nĩ ithuĩ na mbemwe kũhingia wendi waku. Nyitanĩra na ithuĩ o mũthenya wa kiumia ciehanda thaa 2 cia ũtukũ, amu kĩroto gĩaku tũrakĩoya na ũritũ. Ririkana, ĩno ti tabarĩra ta iria ingĩ. Nĩ rũgendo rwa gũthoma, kũhĩga na gũkinyanĩria kĩroto gĩaku, na o ta mũtugo o mũndũ nĩ mũrore.
In an age of fleeting headlines, depth matters. PeopleDaily.digital carries forward a legacy of genuine journalism. We bring in not just the news, but the context, the analysis, and the stories that shape our nation, for reporting that digs deeper and informs better.
Love carried them through time. And betrayal tearing their lives apart. Turning what's sweet to sour. Lazizi Season 1, Monday to Friday at 8 p.m. on Maisha Magic Plus, DSTV channel 163 and GoTV channel 3.
My name is Ari. I made kachumbari.
My name is Cliff, and I made beef.
I'm Auntie Faith. I brought chapatis.
My name is Uncle Vinny. I made the best chicken.
Mimi ndiye mama yao na nimewapikia
Jamii Pishori Rice.
You people don't see my chicken here.
Your chicken was best before Mom made Jamii Pishori rice.
Jamii Pishori rice, where quality begins.
This is AFCON, my friend. Everything is a competition. Everything.
The family meets for AFCON 2025. To book your seat, dial *423# to get or stay connected to DSTV access for only 1,450 Kenya shillings or GoTV value for just 599 Kenya shillings. Live on Supersport.
Kameme kayuka moigi na Kameme TV tukinyitirira mathaga maitu turakurehera Mwijoyo Festival ne Jumamothi mweri 29 November haria Sports View Hotel Kasarani kwambĩrĩria thaa 8 cia mũthenya ũkocemania na njata cia Wayne, Samido, Jose Gatutura, Tonya, Prince Ida, DJ John Falme, Waja Asal, Sameiro Gonagia.
Ndaragwaru warothiraga watukanago akea. Kikimia timutimbi kwiro no mino kwena ganyola ma.
Kuigira Mwijoyo Festival ni Alibad, shirigi griemwe, kehigoine griemwe na magana matano. No gwele tigiti wako kuhitukira *672 *55#. Mlima meet Lakeside, one stage, mad fun.
Huyu ni Brayo. Hii
ABC, Brayo anadai tu furaha. Akajiambia hatatulia hadi ipate. Akapiga maraundi hadi siku moja furaha ikapatikana. Tumefungulia value Hickory C upate furaha. This festive season, dial *423# to reconnect and stay connected to GoTV value for only 599 Kenya shillings.
Na kisha moja kwa moja mtazamaji, basi nakupeleka hapa basi hadi kwa upande wa Japana. Kati huo magaidi wakaanza kuchokoza jamaa fulani alikuwa gaidi Zunyuizi na familia yake. Wewe, kwa nini mnakaa kwa meza yetu? Kwa nini mnakuja kukaa kwa meza yetu? Sasa jamaa wetu taikaona kuona hivyo akaumwa. Mwanzo hapa mtazamaji ni kwa restaurant, sio kwa nyanya yako. Hii ni restaurant. Mtu analetwa hapa na pesa zake. Haya! Kaona akiwa na umama, akamuita kamama. Hey! Kamama, pigwa shock. God of Thunder. Akachomoka biguni, akakuingilia. Moyo wake unanyonywa. Cheki venye na ambavyo jamaa anakaushwa. Na Hanzo Hasashi this type round ako na machungu baya mbovu. Mtu nataka kuja kuuza uoga. Nakuja kuuzia nani uoga? Mimi ni mtu anawakilisha taifa mzima. Alafu mtu anataka kuja kuuzia mimi uoga. Mabira inya kibisa. Aberu chwadi. Kanafurahia mwanzo firirida imewekwa. Wewe, kwanza kanasikia firirida ni ya Monyonyi. Kanasema mambo iko shwari kibisha. Nyitanagira na DJ Junior the Hindi kwa biriria muthenya wa kiumia ginya aramithi shihada tha inya cia utuko. Na rio muthenya wa Jumamothi ni shihada tha 10 cia hwaini.
Alo, Mr. Mavela, Mr. Mandunya, Mr. Mavujing, Mr. Sababisha bana kijana wa mamake, siko solo, ceremony master, bonga nao.
Check, MC Ghetto Child, but like 90s dance, allow see you.
Ivan Mitchell Francis, IMF for short was in
the ceremony master, MC Ghetto Child, plus
DJ Jazz 254, aka the musical judge.
So if you wanna catch a groove, wanna feel the siren vibe.
Those are time at a bed il kwangore, kesi ya kesi by atanama no tiuye.
MC Ghetto Child sapana jembe teshi mtu wangu, tugu dawa zapo K24 Kameme TV 2 channel
kila saa to Juma pale hivyo K24 TV na Kameme TV kuanzia oya saa 5 hadi saa 7.
Two good hours of nonstop this and that, local content mtu wangu, international content, my interviews am artists, local and international artists, them also audio.
Tumesema jo musical judge.